Hey, so my four moments. Okay, I had four moments in my life that were like this one, and what I mean by that is something happened to me that affected my life that I had no control over. The only decision I had was how I was going to react to it. Here they were. When I was 8 years old, my father passed away due to cancer. When I was 9 years old, my mother remarried a guy who had five kids. Now, we had four kids. Actually, when my father passed, we had three kids, and my mother was pregnant, 8 months pregnant with my brother Rob. So he was born a month after my father passed away. So we had four kids, and we were moving along. It was okay. It was fine. But my mother met a guy whose wife had passed, and he had five kids. So they decided to get married. So when I was 9, I suddenly acquired five new siblings, five new stepbrothers and sisters. Didn't have any control over it. It just happened. When I was 14, my mother and my stepfather got separated. And my stepfather, I lived in Chicago. My stepfather moved to Florida, and we stayed in Chicago. I had no control over this. So the number of kids in my family was at 4, went up to 9, now it was back to 4. And that happened, actually, they moved down to Florida in May. And then by August, we had moved down to Florida to rejoin them. So now we were back up to 9 kids, and that was the fourth thing. So father passing, mother remarrying, separation, and then getting back together. 8, 9, 14, 14. Those are the ages. Those things happen. I had no control over any of that. I just had to control how to react to it. So before I continue, I want to show you something now. Okay? Now I'm going to show you this. It is 2 circles. Okay? There's a bigger circle and then a smaller circle. The bigger circle is called the circle of concern. The smaller circle is called the circle of influence. Okay? The smaller circle is always inside of the bigger circle because it's always true that you can influence things. You can't influence things as much as you have things that you have concern over. So let's go over what this stuff means. Things that are in your circle of concern are things like the weather. You have no control over the weather, and you never will. That's why the circle of concern will always be bigger. You'll never have control over the weather. You had no control over school stopping. You had no control over the fact that this virus came into our lives. You have a little control over whether you get it or not. But you do have control over the things that are inside the circle. You have control over how you treat people. Okay? You have control over whether or not you try at your schoolwork. You have control over whether or not you clean your room. Those aren't the only things that you have control over, but those are some things that you do have control over. There are many others. One thing that I think it would be good for you to do for yourself is just to, for a little thought experiment, just make 2 circles on a piece of paper and write down what belongs in the circle of concern, things that you care about, and what belongs in the circle of influence. Outside the circle of concern are things like that you don't even care about. Like right up here might be what people on the planet Neptune are thinking today or something. Not that there's even people on that planet, but I'm just saying you could care less. You don't care about that. So there are things outside the circle of concern. There are things that do concern you, and then there are things you can control. Okay, so here's the thing. The inside circle grows smaller and smaller the more that you focus on things that are in the outside circle. The more you focus on things you cannot control, the more people are going to come to realize that you're just somebody who sees themselves as powerless, who is powerless, who can't really have an effect on the world because you're not trying to, because you're thinking about things that you'll never control. But the more you control, more you focus on the things that are on the inside circle, the larger that circle becomes, and more people focus on you, more people listen to you, more people care about what you think, because your thoughts are always directed at something that you can affect, that you can have influence over, okay? So I wish somebody would have explained all this to me when I was a kid. I grew up a little bit angry about these things that happened in my life. I wasn't happy about these events that swept over me. I didn't really know what to do about it or how to think about it. It took me a while to sort of get my arms around this whole thing and realize that, you know what I need to do is just be happy, be myself, do what I like to do, and, which is teach and coach and talk. You hear me talk a lot, probably too much, sorry about that. And I also got it in my mind that since nobody really ever took the time to tell me about this stuff, that there would probably be more kids like me that came along who this stuff happens to, and like, who, maybe I could explain things to them. Maybe that's my purpose. Maybe that's my calling in life. So I followed that into being a coach and a teacher. I love sports, as you know, and I felt like, wait a minute, maybe I can make a living out of coaching and teaching and using those things to have an influence on kids that needed help. So that's what I did. And I put all of my energies toward working at that, becoming better and better at that. And that's where I'm at today. That's where I sit in this moment. This philosophy has really served me well. The idea of working at things you can control. Your YouTube channel that these videos are on, these are things I could control. These are things that were within the power of me to do something about because of this interruption. I never did a YouTube channel before. Well, I never really had a reason to. But we're in a different moment now. So, I found a different thing to do. I think it was just fell right into line with how I try to think and how I try to teach people to think. Now, I'm not trying to say I know everything, because I don't. I'm a gym teacher, and I'm, get more things wrong than I get right. I'm not trying to say I'm smart or anything like that. But what I am trying to say is that I know that there are some things are always right. Like I said in the last little clip, it's always right to be good. It's always right to be nice. It's always right to love people and things. It's always right to be fair. It's always right to forgive. Okay? It's always right to try hard. These things are always right, no matter what. And it's always right to focus on your circle of concern. On your circle of influence. And it's not that it's wrong, but it's a waste of time to spend a lot of time focusing on your circle of concern. These are things that you can't do anything about. Why sit around and fret about the weather? Okay, so the weather's bad. Okay, now what? What are we going to do about that? That's what matters. And so, anyways, in this moment that we're all in right now, which is this sudden stoppage of school and this sudden ripping apart of the end of fifth grade for you fifth graders, and the natural end of your time at Cypress, that you should be getting crowned as the glorious leaders of the school on your way out, which you are and you've earned. Not going to happen. Now what? So that's what I got for you in this little chat. I got a lot more to come. Love you guys.